Show of hands. I can only see a few teams, but how many people hit the numbers they wanted to hit last year? One. How many people are on track to do the exact numbers they wanted to do this year or better? Nobody. That being the case, how many people had the opportunities to hit those numbers and feel like they probably didn't capitalize enough on them? I'm going to raise my hand. So a lot of people feel like they didn't have enough opportunity to hit the numbers they wanted to hit. Is that fair? How many people had training to help them get there that they feel like they didn't capitalize enough on? I'll raise my hand because I always feel like that. So one's going to go hand in hand with the other, right? If you had opportunity you didn't capitalize on, there's probably a good chance there was some training you either didn't go get that you knew you could get, or that you had and didn't capitalize on, or didn't take it to heart, or didn't practice enough. For me, it's role play, what we do for a living in trucks, in sales roles. You have the opportunity to practice, right? The question is, are you going to practice on your client, or are you going to practice in training? I can't imagine there's a lot of football players that would keep their jobs in the NFL if they did all their training in the four quarters of the game. There are a few, maybe Allen Iverson, Bo Jackson, just naturally gifted guys. But for the most part, if you're going to get out there and train on the field, you're not going to be on the team. We're in one of those fortunate places where we have the opportunity to only train in the field and keep our jobs. So the issue with that is, there is the going dyslexic this morning. Predator mindset, which is good, depending on what kind of predator we're talking about. And then there's the prey mindset, which is not good. I'm talking about the EY.
It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to
Nothing. But being in a prey mindset means that your primary motivator is what?
that you are a
Your primary motivator is fear. So we were talking about, if raise your hand if you've ever seen a cheetah chasing down a gazelle or deer or whatever on a documentary. Raise your hand if you've never seen that. Okay. About half the hands went up the first time, 0 hands went up second time. So you're not that close. So I'm going to figure some of the teams are asleep, which would reflect in your paychecks. So the predator mindset means you are driven by goals mostly. There can be some fear there too. Like in terms of the cheetah, the fear of her cubs starving if she doesn't get a meal because she's not producing milk, right? But this is still a whole different mindset than the gazelle. So if you watch that cheetah hit 70 miles an hour on, a few mile stretch for about 5 seconds before they burn out, and then they just stop with exhaustion, it's a failed hunt. And you see that gazelle, which I think they can run about 50 miles an hour, but they're bouncing side to side, side to side, and they win. Which one actually looks like they won? So the cheetah just plops down. She's like licking her paw. She's just kind of casually looking around, right? But what's the gazelle doing? Like looking over its shoulder, scanning the environment, like where's this cheetah at? The gazelle just won the contest, but do they look like winners afterwards? They're terrified, hearts racing, not just from the run, but from the fear and anxiety that pushed them to run that fast. So when you're in the prey mindset in a selling role, what all you're doing is trying to do enough to not get fired, right? You know that if you fall to the bottom of the list of conversion rate or ticket average or whatever is tracked, you're either going to get let go, or you're going to get to the bottom of what you might call the wheel, the sales wheel, where Eddie's conversion rate is so low. If there are 3 calls and only 2 people to hit them for 5 days straight, Eddie's getting 0 calls for 5 days because his conversion rate's too low. It just doesn't make sense to send him to the call, right? Only reason I'm using Eddie's because I know he'd never be there, right, buddy?
Yeah, that's never going to happen.
Especially from that management chair, buddy.
Exactly why it's never going to happen.
So in that case, you're in the prey mindset. Now, in that prey mindset, you can get out of it, right? You can use that fear to motivate you to get up to the top part of the wheel, and then you can use other motivators to stay there, which is the idea. So what are some of the other motivators? And there's 6. This marker sucks. major motivators. Number one, we'll put fear. Fear of loss of your job, fear of getting to the bottom of the wheel and not getting good calls, fear of missing a promotion, fear of getting bumped back. Like you get guys who go into sales roles or even management roles, and all of a sudden their team is not hitting their number, and the person above them realizes you're not the person for the job to get this team to go where we need them to go, and you get demoted. And I've seen this a lot, and I've had to do this myself several times. It's no fun for any party, for sure. But that's kind of the lowest form of a motivator for yourself. That's not where you want to live. You can use that motivation to escape that cheetah, but then us being humans who can make ourselves evolve, so to speak. Well, now you're going to go get a knife and a gun, and you're going to learn how to shoot, and you're going to say, next time I see that cheetah, it's game on, right? So you don't want to live in that fear mindset. You become the hunter, the predator. 2 is the carrot. It was funny because I was talking to our team about this yesterday or Monday, I think it was. And we were talking about, several of us in the room, we were just talking about, yeah, we know what the carrot is. And then one of the 20-year-olds just goes, who cares about a carrot? Like, why do I want a carrot? He just didn't know the analogy. The analogy just being like, it's something you might dangle in front of a pig to get it to race, right? It's just hanging there in front of them. They'll do this with like horses too. They'll just dangle a piece of food off a stick in front of them, and they're trying to get it. They do it with dog races too, right? And they're going after this this award that's just outside their reach, and they have to go fight for it. So that's an external positive motivator. The internal positive version of that for yourself would just be a goal that you set. I don't believe someone else can set a goal for you. I believe that's a target, a measurement, or a carrot. Like, do this number this month and here's what you'll get. That's not a goal. You have to set goals yourself, right? Smart goals, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. So what can be some goals? We'll keep it cleaner than we did in the training the other day. But money, right? I want to make X amount of dollars gross this year before taxes and everything. Okay, so let's just say, for easy math, I want to make $100,000 this year. Well, I have 52 weeks in the year. I probably have around 2 weeks of vacation. And if I'm lucky, I'm a straight commission salesperson, because that's where I'm going to grow, and don't have an hourly backup because there's no growth there. So if I'm lucky, I'm straight commission. So those 2 weeks, I don't get paid. So I have 50 weeks to make that $100,000. How much do I need per week to get there? $2,000. I'm going to work 5 days. What's $2,000 divided by 5 days? I need my green marker. I need $400 a day. If I'm trying to make 200,000, 800, 300,000, 1,200. That's pretty easy math. If you're going anywhere lower than that, you're probably in the wrong field, because the opportunity exists for you to make at least this, or at least this in this field, and way up from there. You got to start somewhere. And I'm not bashing anybody who's starting out. So that's a goal. And if you want to get even more granular, you say, I average 4 calls a day. I got to make $100 minimum per call. But I'm not going to do that on all 4 calls, right? So you got to try to make it on every call. What's another one? I've done this many times where I'm like, I want this training. I want this trip. I want a car. Once, when the new Chargers were coming out, I wanted like that RT Charger, and asked my wife like halfway through a year what I'd have to make with the rest of the year to get to at least one of these Chargers. And she gave me the number, and I hit that sucker, and off we went. Don't really do that anymore. That was a short period of me caring about cars. I really don't care about cars. I care about homes. So a material possession, a vacation, a trip, a training. This is a good way to program yourself, is like, mama, how much do I have to hit this year to go to this wildly expensive sales mastermind next year? And famously, at least on Waste No Day, I talk about, I started with 10% of my gross income when we could not afford to give away 10% of my gross income. So I made $32,000 my last year in Michigan. My first year in Las Vegas, working for Ken Goodrich's Yes Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling organization in Las Vegas. my mentor Lance told me all about this Tom Hopkins boot camp that he goes to every year. And that was my first introduction to Tom, and it changed my life. But it's $3,200, including everything. So flights, Scottsdale, Princess, Marriott. We had to fly to Scottsdale. The room, the actual boot camp itself. And then, of course, I'm with Lance, who's got plenty of money. So he's like, I do VIP. You don't have to, but you're not going to get dinner with Tom. And the first time I met Brian Tracy, and like Colin Powell was there and Lou Holtz was there, all these people. And he's just like, I'm going to eat dinner or lunch or dinner with these guys. And if you don't get the VIP, it's only $1,500, but you're not going to do that. Of course. So I told her that the only package they had was $3,200, including everything. So that's what we did, 10%. And because of that first year, how much development I saw, because again, we didn't have YouTube back in 2005, and like none of these external training things existed. I had never even really heard a motivational person speak in my life until I met Lance in the conference room. And I went out and saw all these monsters, and it changed me. So now it became a thing for me. Late in this year, we will allocate, my wife and I, around 10% of what we think we're going to make next year gross. And we will start pinpointing places that we're going to spend it. I've been to, I want to say 5, either personal, business, or marriage development things this year already. And we have 3 more in September. We're going almost the whole month of September at 3 different masterminds. The most expensive one is $12,000 in September. So I still live by this principle. And here's something funny. There's a lot of people sitting there nodding their head going like, I'm not spending $12,000. I only make 88,000. Like, I'm not spending 8,800 next year or 9,000 on training. Cool. You keep doing your plan. I'll keep doing mine. Let's see where they take us. I know that not one single penny that I've ever spent on personal development would I sit here and ask for it back to take the training away. Not one penny ever. Ask me what percentage of alcohol money I'd like to have back. Cigarette money I'd like to have back. Oxycontin, Vicodin, Percocet, freaking BS nonsense that I wasted it on at bars and clubs hanging with the boys in Las Vegas. All of it. Nonsense toys that were the huge deal back then, but are literally in a junkyard or a recycling bin now. I'd love to have it all back and to have put it into more training. Now, there are things that I wouldn't take back. My daughter's gymnastics lessons, my son's football, jiu-jitsu, all that stuff that he does. None of that money would I like to have back. But all the money I wasted on BS that now is more important to some of the people on this call than your training and personal development. Junk food. It's like, would I like to have lost a little spare tire and have some of that junk food money back? Yeah, I would like to have put that into personal development. That would be great if somebody could give me that time machine. So we have the opportunity to allocate this money. So here's how you have to do it. Do it in November. This is how much I want to use next year. So start signing up for these things. And most of them, like, it might be 10% down, and then you pay the rest when you get there. Here's the thing. If you don't pay for it, and I've done this before, you lose your 10%. So it's like, do I want to sacrifice the other 90% to get some hopefully good development training? I don't spend it all in one place. I have trainers and mentors who would love me to spend it all in one place, but I don't do that. That's a rule of ours. So you'll cough up the 10% if you decide not to pay for the rest of it throughout the year. I've never found that worthwhile. There's been a few times where I just couldn't make it happen, usually because I don't have the time when that time comes rolling around. But most of the time we figure it out, we figure out the money, and you just make it happen. And you never leave one of these things and honestly go, despite what your trainer's going to tell you, my life has been changed forever. Never, not one time. The only time was that first Tom Hopkins seminar, because again, I'd never heard of any of these cats, never heard of any of them. And it changed the game for me. Every time after that, I'm even by like day 2 or day 3, however many days it is, or even hour 6 of the first day, your body language is like this. It's like, oh my gosh, I got to go. How much more of this do I have to go through? You kind of feel like it's just running on, or maybe like, hey, this is info they gave us earlier, but it's like, I realized later, like throughout the process, that I needed every minute of it, despite how exhausted I was halfway through, or day 2 or day 3 or whatever it is. You just got to keep pounding all this stuff into your head. So make a goal how much you're going to spend on personal development. That's one goal that you will set and achieve that you will never look back on and go, now maybe like 3 weeks later, you're like, I wish I had that cash. But 3 years later, never. You'll never wish you had that money back. What's another one? This is the one that I've seen in top performers across all industries I've been around. This is the number one motivator for the top level people. And this is, I'm gonna put this one in a different color. Recognition. What do I mean? Do I mean that the manager hits you with a fist bump like, hey, man, I appreciate you taking, hey, Jake, Edwin, Eddie, Brad, everybody who just came in on their days off over this very busy weekend we just had and ran calls. I appreciate you guys hitting those. That is freaking huge of you. Yeah, it means that. But is that all it means? Not necessarily. So we were talking about this. This is like the first time in, this is like the first time in history that you can be recognized nationally like that in one way or the other for your level of production. So especially if you're in a franchise like we are, like Eddie Wells is there and a few others, like if you're a top performer, you're going to Vegas or Texas or Florida first quarter of the year, the following year, and you're going to get recognized on stage with a trophy or an envelope full of cash or whatever. Well, now they do checks, but whatever it is, you're going to get recognized publicly. But let's say you don't. A lot of managers go up and get those and people just keep working. You could end up on a podcast. I think they have some cool podcasts out there. I don't know any of them. You could be on a podcast where instantly your name is like echoed across from coast to coast. And you're talked about in terms of how extreme your performance is. This has never really existed before. All you could ever really be was the top guy at your shop. But now your level of recognition can go global. And that is a big motivator for top people. Now, there's part of the reason for that is like Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Like your safety and security needs when you're a top performer, they're met. You're going to eat, you're going to pay your mortgage, you're going to pay your car note. That's not a problem. So you start moving up that pyramid, right? And legacy and recognition become a big one when all these other needs get met. And top performers, especially guys that have been top performers for years, they're at the point where none of that other stuff means a whole lot, right? I'm not chasing my mortgage payment anymore. So now all of a sudden I'm concerned with my legacy. What are some other big ones? Environment. Raise your hand if you think that your environment can change how you look at selling or change how you look at big numbers or small numbers, right? That can be a big game changer. Raise your hand if you were at a place previously where you thought the numbers that you see where you're at now were impossible. It's most other places. So if you've been on other teams, chances are that's where you were before. Most teams are not getting on calls like this in the morning. They don't even have morning meetings. I still go to shops all the time where if they have a morning meeting at all, which most of them do not, they have one morning meeting a week. And I don't even like meetings. I just like trainings, whether it's communication and selling, objections, which to me are two different things, life and just being better people, or technical training is what we should be doing in the mornings. I'm not a big fan of us getting together to have a group meeting where everybody has input. I want the top person at each one of those things we just talked about to be giving the training, where everybody else is learning something. Last but not least, this is another big one for top performers. Competition. Right now we have four team members. Well, we'll say the two who keep breaking each other's top number. Eddie and Jack here in Phoenix. Eddie just broke the record for sold and installed work last month at 111,000. Give me 2 thumbs up if that's right. 111. Sold and installed plumbing work. Probably half demand calls, half maintenance with no sewer jobs whatsoever. Vast majority tankless and water treatment. And inevitably, Jack will do 113 this month or next month, and then Eddie will try to push back up. And this is what they're doing. And it's this right here. It's like, Roger Bannister breaks a new 4-minute mile every other month, and then all his competitors come up and shoot up 1 second, ahead of him. And this is how competition works. Friendly competition. These guys will actually go help each other if they didn't sell anything today. So it's still a friendly competition, but we're competitive, and top performers are very competitive. Can't be an a-hole about it. If you're I need everybody else to lose so I can win. I mean, there are places for you, but this isn't one of them. So be competitive, but also be a team member. So what you have in terms of homework, and it shouldn't be much, you can probably realize where you're at right here, right now. If you're a fairly low performer and just kind of getting your feet under you, it may very well be this one. But I'm here to tell you that you can't live there for very long. If you're the type of person that lives in that fear and gets motivated for 5 minutes and then it all goes away for the rest of the day or the week, and then maybe this ain't for you. It's just not. It may be for you later when you've learned a little discipline, but if you solely rely on the motivation where somebody else has to make you excited about what you do for a living, or you're just not, it's not for you. Go find something else to do. I'm sure you're going to get paid more because there's no floor in sales. I mean, the floor is zero, right? There's no ceiling either, fortunately. But you can go work at a gas station counter and make more than you're going to make in a sales role not producing. Outside of that, the rest of these are great motivators because in every single one of these, you can be sitting in the predator mindset. So what's the major difference in the two besides how a cheetah and a gazelle look, whether they won or lost? It's whether you're on your heels, taking the battle, or on your toes. And when you're on your toes, leaning forward and you can't wait, like get me to that call, get me to that objection, give me that tough client. The top in the industry, the top technicians that I've ever worked with, when you throw them a ridiculously hard call, it's 2 words, man. And I do try to live by these words, which is at all times. I'll leave the lid off it this time. Game on. Now, if you feel yourself saying anything else, understand if it's anything but let's go, game on, you are talking yourself out of making money on that call. Now, I know what a lot of you are doing. You're trying to manipulate your way out of having to run it. Managers in the room, if I ask for a show of hands, 100% of the hands would go up. We know what you're doing. We're not sitting there going like, oh, yeah, he's got these reasons and he's probably making sense. You're just manipulating your way out of running that call. Our respect for you is doing this while we're having this conversation. That's what happens. Look at that call as the opportunity of a lifetime, because the harder the mission is, the more you will learn and develop from it. Right? I'm a gym guy. The heavier the weight is, the more muscle development I'm going to get from it. We all want low-hanging fruit in sales. All of us. There's no top producer. If you're plumbing, everyone wants my water heater exploded. It sank my 25-year-old softener down the driveway. I need everything in the garage replaced and maybe even a repipe. Of course, we all want that call this morning. But if what we get is the top producer on our team was out 3 weeks ago, stole what looks like everything according to the invoice, and you need to go out and do a callback on a bunch of items because he's off and the installer's off or something like that, right? Same thing. You literally have to look at yourself and go, game on. I cannot wait to text him pictures of the work that he overlooked and I got while I was there. That's just got to be your mindset, because that's the mindset of the predator. So you're on your toes. You're leaning forward into this, and your entire persona changes. Your anxiety is not high. Your excitement's high. And which one is going to sell more? High anxiety, nerves, anger that I don't really want to be here, or high excitement, drive, passion? So they say selling or closing %, conviction, belief, excitement, enthusiasm, and only 10% persuasion. So if we spend 90% of our times on what words to say, but only 10% of our time on how excited we are about our product and service, are we winning or are we losing? We're losing. Doctors come into that room and they have all the conviction and authority in the world. They don't practice what they say. They don't have to. They walk right in and assume the sale. They don't offer you other options. They don't walk in and go, and we can do this for you. And we can, you know what we can do? We can offer you 20% off if you want to do it right now. Like just collapsing in on ourselves in this moment of emotional weakness and throwing out discounts that have no business being there. They're like 99% conviction. Alex Hormozi had a great quote. He said, conviction will correct tonality. And I would add body language to that. There we go. Conviction will correct the rest. How hard do you think you have to train, practice, and work on what words you say if you are oozing belief in your product? You don't have to work very hard at all. It's funny. Like Logan Altman from Mr. Sparky and Lancaster and I did a podcast on Tommy Mello's show a couple weeks ago that'll air probably, I don't know, in another month or so. It's just a straight selling podcast. And Tommy wanted him to use some of my rebuttals on objections. And it was funny because we get to one, I don't remember which one it was. And Logan did not remember the script. Like he just went completely off base on the script. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he tells me after. So Tommy's like, all right, you overcome it with your script. And I use the script. What's funny is if Logan and I run the same call and get that same objection, I believe there's a 10% higher chance that he's going to sell it than I am. Because he is 10% more passionate and convicted and empathetic to that client than I am. Maybe 30% more empathetic, but probably 10% more passionate and convicted. And he's not going to have the script down. Now, he told me after the fact, he's like, Brian, I don't get that objection, bro. I memorize the ones that I get, but I don't actually ever get hit with that. So that was nice to hear at the end. But it doesn't really matter. Logan really doesn't have to memorize rebuttals and stuff like that because he is – this guy, you know, I don't know what he did his best years, like 3.3 million in electrical sales. This guy cannot believe that you as a client are not going to take his recommendations. Like he doesn't slam doors and get mad at people. He's just like, what do you mean? What do you mean no? No what? Like you're still going to get it done right, even if it's not by me. Like he's not faking this. He's utterly flabbergasted when someone says no to him. And he would call me after every time he didn't sell the job. And he'd be like, I don't know what I did wrong. I don't get it, Brian. Like you don't understand. This has to be done. And it should have been done already. And I'm like, dude, chill. You're not selling me, you know? But he's like that worked up in his conviction. He doesn't need this because he's got that. I'm going to leave that quote up there. And I would love for everybody to jot that one down. And maybe somewhere where you're going to see it on your way to your calls or in between calls. I just heard that one last night or this morning. And I was like, whoa, he's absolutely right. Like I love 90% conviction, 10% persuasion, but even better, that conviction will fix everything else. If your belief in what you're providing is that strong, people don't want to say no to you. They don't want to feel like you tricked them into buying something by having all the proper verbiage, but then it's something that you don't really believe in that strongly. So on your toes, on your heels, the conviction and passion comes from being on your toes. That's why, like, you hear of the hot streak, right? Somebody sold big yesterday. That somebody for the managers in the room better be getting the first call today. Because that hot streak exists. When that person's hitting big, they're passionate, they're excited, they're having fun, they've forgotten all their financial woes and the fact that they were on the bottom of the wheel, and like none of that stuff exists anymore. They're just in this predator mindset. And I struggle to even use the predator and prey mindset because I'm like, I don't want you to feel like you're out there terrorizing clients and taking them down and killing them. And I don't want you to assume that mindset. Although I still think it's better than that passive, hey, maybe I get it, maybe I don't. That lukewarm, think about it, where it's like, yeah, some will, some won't, so what? It's the client's fault. That mentality of like, I own no responsibility in whether they bought or not. Like, I'll tell you, I said, how many people had opportunities the opportunities to hit the numbers they wanted to hit last year and didn't capitalize them. And I saw like only, I think in our room, only the top producers raised their hands, and only maybe 10% of the other teams I could see raise their hands. And let me tell you how I felt about the rest of the guys. Not great. Because I'm like, if my conversion rate was 75%, maybe 5%, you're just not going to close. But I don't know, man. It's like I used to think that way. And, you know, I was around guys like Brent Buckley, who sold 14.7 million in HVAC, mostly maintenance calls his last year. And Logan Altman, who has never seen a call that can't get turned. And I'm around these guys, and I watch and talk to them about the calls where it's like, we got there, we met with the realtor and the old owner and the sold signs hanging from the bottom. And these guys figure out a way to get it done with the most insane amount of like technical information by working with the future buyer and the seller and the realtor, and everybody's coming together, and they are orchestrating a masterpiece symphony by bringing everyone together. Like, this needs to be done. How can we all get what we all want? Like, they're men doing men jobs. And the majority of salespeople out there are kids trying to do a grown-up job. Because some will, some won't, is what it is. I got another call. Conversion rate 60 in a game where people are doing 90. That's fine. I'm sure I got another one waiting for me. Right? Oh, I won't ask right because everybody's going to shake their head no. But it is what it is, man. There are people selling your calls. They exist. And this one's a big one for that, where if you get around a bunch of predators, it's going to be difficult to walk around like that. It's difficult because you feel uncomfortable. You cannot feel comfortable around winners if you're a loser. You can't. So you're either going to shape up or ship out, right? This is what ends up happening. You either grow up and adopt some real responsibility and put some real weight on your shoulders, stop hiding behind the furniture and just existing. You don't have that option when you're around a bunch of winners. The discrepancy between you and them just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're just like, okay, I can't do it. I used to be a salesman once. Tough racket, as Alec Baldwin would say. So this is what I want to leave with. Logan said something funny on that episode where he was like, Tommy asked him, what were the best and worst? What was the best and worst thing about working with Brian? And he said, the best thing was he brought out the best in me. He got the most out of me. The worst thing was it was never enough. It's never enough. And I had our top guy, Jack, in here yesterday morning before he had a freaking monster day. Say like, there's no matter what I do, I don't feel like it's enough. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. Guess who feels the same way? Me, Brent Buckley, Logan, all like champions. It's never enough. So it's even difficult to say, you know, if you're on a team of losers, it's probably the wrong team for you. If this meeting's resonating with you and like making you feel something, and you're surrounded by people who would never take this meeting seriously, you know who I'm talking about. They haven't taken a single note. Never take a meeting like this seriously. This is for somebody else. Or, man, I hate this Brian guy. Why do we have to listen to him every week? I don't care. Just don't put headphones on. If that's the mindset of the people that you're surrounded by and you want more for yourself, you want to become a top producer, or you're a top producer on your team, but you realize that means nothing, right? And you don't see yourself going this way. Now, Jack and I talked about something yesterday, which was the crypto saying, when in doubt, zoom out. So you can't look at yourself over where you're at now versus 2.5 weeks ago and see a massive amount of growth, right? It doesn't exist any more than I can step on a scale. I'm doing weight loss right now, which isn't common for me. But if I step on a scale today and don't see 4 pounds lost from yesterday, and feel like a failure, I'm probably going to quit. When in doubt, zoom out. Where was I at this time last month, 3 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago? If my projection is this over that time span, I'm doing it right. Now, I have the benefit as a about to be 45-year-old with a full head of hair, of saying, I understand this concept because I've seen it decade over decade over decade. So 2.5 decades being in a plumbing truck or being in and around plumbing trucks. I've seen where I was super stagnant or even going the wrong way, usually drugs and alcohol. Or I've seen when I was on a good trajectory where I'm going upwards, or I've seen this. And now I know what the behaviors and patterns are that I'm doing when I'm in this mode. And this is all I try to do anymore. And what am I doing? I can't emphasize this one enough. There's all kinds of people now going back and forth on this one, whether it's important, and like Elon doesn't get up till 9:30. It's like, I don't care what these people say. What we do for a living, you need to be beating your alarm clock. I figure most people in trucks and sales roles, alarm clocks are like mine was most of the time I was in a truck, which is it's going off with a 9-minute window of exactly what time I have to get up to be at the meeting 1 minute before it starts. How do I know? Well, half the team will be late if there's a light that turns on. It's just, or get there at 1 minute before the meeting starts. So if you want to start being in that proper trajectory, the first thing I know is I get up at 3:45 in the morning. This is the proper amount of time for me to get in the things I get in the morning before my workout, and then get to the gym and get a workout, and then have some time to spend. Like, I'm a person leaving the gym, I like to talk to a few people. It just gets me energized in the way that I need to be for the meeting. These are non-negotiables for me. If I'm during the workday, I can't be listening to music, news, stand-up comedy, or entertainment. I have to be listening to something that's making me smarter or better than I was yesterday. Non-negotiables. I can look at the years when I was doing that and the years when I was doing that. And these are the difference makers. So 2 decades solid. I mean, the year I got to yes and really started this transformation journey was 2004. So I have 2 solid decades of evidence backing it up. I need to find really difficult things to do in my life that I don't have to do and force myself to be very uncomfortable and get those done. And a lot of times that just looks like a new weight to lift, a new weight to hit, like get down to a certain body fat percentage. I'll just go, I'm doing carnivore for 4 weeks every now and then, and I won't have a drop of anything that's not meat, salt, or water. I'll do a 48-hour water fast where the only thing I consume is water for 48 hours for no other reason except I am weak and soft and brittle, and I need to beat myself into submission. And I know that if I'm doing those things, my trajectory is right. But if I'm doing this, oh man, it is stand-up comedy time. I'm going to play that Tom Brady roast over and over again in my car from now on. You know what? I need a good laugh. I take life too seriously. Yeah, that's me. I need to hear some music this morning. I need to get pumped up on my way to my car. Yeah, it works. Music works for me, bro. I'm different. I'm not like you. I can't take a lot from an audio book or a podcast. Yeah, I don't retain it. So what am I going to do? I'm going to listen to Little Wayne. Like, how stupid that sounds. I don't retain, so I'm going to listen to rap. Like, that's some corny stuff for people who claim they're trying to get better. So the way I always put it, and I'll end with this, is if you're trying to learn Spanish, what's the best thing you can do? You can get dropped off in Tijuana around people who only speak Spanish and watch how quickly you learn that language. If you're trying to get better at communication, sales, management, leadership, you drop yourself off in and around people that are only doing and talking about those things, and they're better than you. Now, can you go to that place that exists that's only that? No. You got a job to do. You got bills to pay. So where are you going to get it? Well, here's a good place. Your library. Here's a better place. Podcast app, Spotify, Audible, YouTube. Everything you need. Look, I say YouTube a lot, but I really hate YouTube because you don't really control what's going to play next if it's on auto. But man, if you get into Waste No Day or Master the Hustle or Close It Now or one of these sales podcasts, and it just will keep playing the next one, you're safe there. You're fine. If you put on like Cisco this morning has started the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, it's 13 hours long. You're good there. You're not going to mess up and accidentally listen to Stephen Covey and end up ruining your day. So if you need if you need help figuring out what to listen to, hey, I listen to you every Wednesday. I've listened to most of the Waste No Day episodes. I need a break from your voice, or Nate annoys the hell out of me, which I completely understand that one. If that's where you're at and you don't know what to do next, get my number and shoot me a text. I'll give you a list of things to go do. And if money's a struggle right now, because I've been there where I couldn't afford any audiobooks at the time, I'll give you the ones that are free on YouTube. I scan it constantly to find out which ones are free and available right here, right now, because I have dozens of people who ask me for books all the time. Cool. Appreciate you guys being on this morning. It was good to see all of you.